You know what seems to be everywhere lately? Ice baths.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, people just willingly plunging into freezing water. You see the pictures, the videos, ice baths, sure, but also frozen lakes, people gasping under cold showers.
It's quite the visual trend.
It really is. So we wanted to dive into this. Is there actually like real science to back this up? Can blasting yourself with cold actually, I don't know, rewire your brain somehow?
Well, that's the fascinating question, isn't it? It goes beyond just being a trend. What's really interesting is how this seemingly extreme act triggers a whole cascade of responses in your body.
A cascade.
Yeah, and it impacts your brain chemistry in ways that are, frankly, quite surprising. It's not just about the initial shock. There seem to be genuine neurological shifts happening.
Okay, so let's paint the picture. You're standing there about to get into a water that's what, below 60 Fahrenheit? Like
Yeah,
15 Celsius?
around that, yeah. Pretty chilly.
What happens the moment you actually get in? I mean, I'm guessing it's not exactly relaxing.
No, not a spa day for sure. That first hit of cold, it throws your body into the state of controlled panic almost.
Panic. Okay.
Well, your heart rate shoots up, your breathing gets really fast and shallow.
Ah.
It's your sympathetic nervous system firing up the classic fight or flight response.
Okay, like your body thinks it's in danger.
Exactly. It's an ancient survival pathway kicking in. But here's the interesting part. That controlled jolt, that stress, can actually trigger some really beneficial adaptations over time.
Okay, adaptations. So not just the immediate shock and gasp. You mentioned brain chemistry. I know norepinephrine comes up a lot. What's its role here?
Right. Norepinephrine is a key neurotransmitter, really important for things like focus, vigilance, attention.
Okay.
When you hit that cold water, your brain releases a significant amount of it. It acts almost like a natural stimulant.
Like an espresso shot, maybe.
That's a great analogy, yeah.
Yeah.
Nature's espresso shot. It sharpens your focus, makes you feel really alert, brings a kind of mental clarity.
Nature's jolt of clarity. I like that. But it's more than just alertness, isn't it? I've definitely seen studies mentioning dopamine, too. A big spike.
Oh, absolutely. Dopamine, often called the feel-good or reward molecule, it's tied to pleasure, motivation, drive.
Right.
And the research here is pretty startling. Cold water immersion can apparently increase dopamine levels by, get this, up to 250%.
Whoa, 250%. That's huge.
It's a really significant surge, yeah. Much higher than you'd get from, say, many other everyday rewarding activities. So you push through that initial bracing discomfort of the cold,
Yeah.
and then your brain rewards you with this wave of dopamine, which can leave you feeling surprisingly good, really positive and motivated afterwards.
Okay, that 250% figure really helps explain the why. You face the shock, then get this massive internal reward. Makes sense why people might get hooked, I guess.
It certainly contribute to the appeal, yeah.
But beyond that immediate chemical hit, what about the longer term idea? This concept that you're actually like training your brain, making it more resilient.
Yeah, that taps into something called hormesis, which is a fascinating principle. We can circle back to that maybe.
Okay.
But essentially, yes. By deliberately exposing yourself to these short, manageable bursts of stress, like the cold,
Yeah.
you can actually strengthen your brain's overall ability to cope with stress.
How does that work?
Think of it, maybe like exposure therapy, but in a physiological context. You're repeatedly encountering this challenge, the cold, which is intense but ultimately safe, right?
Right.
And your brain learns gradually to regulate its stress response more effectively, not just to the cold, but potentially to other stressors in life too.
So it's like giving your stress response system a bit of a workout, making it more flexible.
Precisely, more adaptable.
Now, switching gears slightly, but related athletes. So many athletes swear by ice baths for recovery. What's the science saying there? Is it just placebo or?
No, there's definitely some solid physiology behind that. The cold has pretty well-known effects on inflammation.
Vasoconstriction, right.
Yeah.
Blood vessels tightening?
Exactly. When you get into cold water, your blood vessels constrict, especially near the surface. This helps reduce swelling and dampens the inflammatory process in muscles that have been worked hard during exercise.
Okay, less inflammation means faster repair.
That's the idea. Reducing that inflammation can potentially speed up muscle repair, reduce soreness, and some people even report it helps with sleep, which is obviously crucial for recovery.
Makes sense. And then there's this other thing I've read about. Brown fat. What is that, and how does cold fit in?
Right, brown fat. It's a bit different from the regular white fat we usually think about.
How so?
Well, white fat mostly stores energy. Brown fat, or BAT, brown adipose tissue, its main job is actually to burn energy to generate heat. It's thermogenic.
Okay, like an internal furnace.
Kind of, yeah. And studies suggest that consistent exposure to cold temperatures can actually stimulate the growth and the activity of this brown fat.
So more cold exposure could mean more brown fat?
Potentially, yes, or at least more active brown fat. And because it burned calories to produce heat, having more active brown fat could, theoretically, lead to a slightly boosted metabolism and maybe better body temperature regulation.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so mood boost, focus, resilience, physical recovery, maybe even metabolism. Quite a list.
It is. It's amazing how this one stimulus, cold water, can ripple through so many different systems.
It really is. I have to admit, I tried it once, not an ice bath, but I jumped into a glacial lake in Iceland.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's commitment.
It was intense. The shock was exactly like you described, just takes your breath away. But
Yeah.
afterwards, I felt absolutely incredible, almost euphoric.
That sounds about right. That euphoria is pretty common, likely that big rush of norepinephrine and dopamine we talked about.
Must be it.
And it doesn't have to be a glacial lake, you know. I know lots of people who started way smaller.
Like cold showers.
Exactly. Just finishing a regular shower with cold water, then maybe building up to actual ice baths. And they often report similar things, feeling more focused, clearer head, just generally better.
Right. So for someone listening now, maybe intrigued, but also thinking, glacial lake, no thanks. What's a sensible way to start? To just dip a toe in, literally.
Yeah, absolutely. The key thing, honestly, is to start slow and really, really listen to your body. Don't push too hard, too fast.
Okay.
A really good starting point is just tacking on, say, 30 seconds of cold water at the very end of your normal warm shower.
Just 30 seconds.
To start, yeah. See how that feels. Then, if you're comfortable, you could gradually increase the time, maybe make the water a touch colder over weeks or months.
Gradual progression.
Exactly. Find a level that feels challenging, definitely, but not unbearable or dangerous. It's not about suffering for suffering's sake. It's about finding that sweet spot of controlled stress that triggers those positive adaptations we've been discussing.
That's good advice. Start small, listen to your body. It's not a competition.
Not at all.
Now, safety. Are there any big warnings? People who should maybe steer clear?
Yes, absolutely crucial point. Cold exposure isn't for everyone. People with pre-existing heart conditions, like arrhythmias or certain heart diseases, or those with circulatory problems like Raynaud's phenomenon, need to be extremely cautious.
Okay.
The cold puts a strain on the cardiovascular system, that initial shock response. So if you have any health concerns at all, especially heart-related,
Talk to your doctor first.
definitely, 100%. Consult your doctor before trying anything intense like ice baths. Safety has to be paramount.
Absolutely. Okay, so assuming it's safe for someone, let's just quickly recap the potential benefits we've touched on. What are the main takeaways?
We've got the potential boost in mood, focus, and motivation from increased dopamine and norepinephrine.
Right, the brain chemicals.
Then there's the idea of building mental resilience, improving your ability to handle stress through that repeated controlled exposure.
The brain training aspect.
For physical recovery, especially after exercise, there's the reduction in inflammation and potentially faster muscle repair.
Good for athletes or anyone active.
And then the potential metabolic effects related to activating that brown fat.
So quite a range of possibilities from just getting cold briefly.
It seems so. All stemming from these relatively short encounters with cold stress.
And you mentioned that term earlier, hormesis or hormetic stress. Can you unpack that just a little bit more? How does cold plunging fit that model?
Sure. Hormesis is this really interesting biological idea. It basically says that a low dose of something that could be harmful in a high dose of stressor can actually have beneficial effects. It makes the organism stronger, more resilient.
Like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, but with actual science.
Kind of, yeah, but in a very specific dose-dependent way. Too much stress is bad, obviously, but a small, manageable amount can trigger adaptive responses that are protective or enhancing.
And cold is one of those manageable stressors.
Exactly. The cold plunge is a perfect example. That initial shock is definitely a stress. But when it's brief and controlled, your body and brain respond by activating these pathways, the neurotransmitter release, the anti-inflammatory effects, potentially the brown fat activation that ultimately leave you better equipped, more robust.
So it's using discomfort strategically.
That's a great way to put it. Using controlled discomfort to stimulate positive physiological and psychological changes. It's a powerful concept, really, suggesting that maybe avoiding all discomfort isn't always the best path to strength or well-being.
That is a really insightful frame. Thank you for walking us through all the science behind this cold plunge phenomenon. It's definitely more complex than just shivering for fun.
My pleasure. It truly highlights how incredibly adaptive our bodies and minds can be when we present them with the right kind of challenge.
So, for you listening, maybe chew on this thought. We've just explored how leaning into a specific type of controlled discomfort cold can actually spark some really positive shifts inside us. Where else in your life might that principle hold true? What other small, manageable challenges could potentially lead to growth? Definitely something to think about.